I'm reading this introduction. That is because in Toastmasters, all right, I'm reading this introduction. That is because in Toastmasters, you don't want the Toastmaster of the day to just wing it. It must be in writing.
Would you like me to read it?
Please. Toastmaster Jordan Camenker.
Introductions need to be in writing. A lot of things need to be in writing. I'll talk to you about a couple of them. The power of questions, and a bit about why we're here. I was in that place where fancy people like me, Walmart. Another former student. She bubbled up when she chatted with me, effusive and delighted, which surprised me because I did remember her. Do you remember me? Yeah, I remembered her. She sat in the back. She scowled. She did it for an entire semester. And she said nothing, ever. And she started telling her husband, this is the guy, do you remember? And he told her, she goes on, and she said she had learned in particular two things. One, she remembered very well the story I told about when I picked up a hitchhiker who happened to be a member of a biker gang. And he got rather animated. When things got animated at his end, I pulled out my machete and I let him off. And I raised the question whether this constituted assault. And we went over the elements of assault. And she remembered the elements of assault. I'm not going to talk to you about assault today. I'm going to talk to you about writing. Because she said, I most of all remember your legs. And I said, well, they're hard to forget. She goes, yes. She goes, and your legs saved my mom. My mom was a beautiful woman, and she married a much older man, and he was very rich. And he wanted her to marry him, and they were going to have a prenup, so she'd be guaranteed some money. And he said, we'll just do this orally. We can agree to it. And because I told her, no, Mom, it has to be in writing. She didn't marry him, and it's a good thing, too. How do we know when something needs to be in writing? How do we know? Wow. We remember my legs. M, marriage. Marriage. Contracts in anticipation of marriage must be in writing to be enforceable. There are a few other elements in Florida. It's perhaps the only contract that also needs to be at least reasonably fair. But they must be in writing or they're not enforceable. Why? Year. Contracts that cannot, according to their own terms, be performed within a year must be in writing. If I say, for example, to the Right Reverend William Newhouse, I will go ahead and repaint your eyeballs 3 times. Once on January 1, 2020, once on January 1, 2021, once on January 1, 2022. It cannot, according to its own terms, be performed within a year. Therefore, it must be in writing. If I say, on the other hand, I'll paint it 3 times by January 1, 2025, 6 years from now, it can be oral because I could paint it once tomorrow, once the next day, and once the day after that. It can, according to its terms, be performed within a year. That's mine. L. Land, Scarlett O'Hara, land. Contracts which transfer an interest in land must be in writing. Ooh, I'm slipping. E. Contracts with the executor of an estate. Maybe the executor needs a little help. Listen, could you pay this plumbing bill? I'll go ahead and pay it later. If you're making a contract with the executor of an estate, better be in writing, or you will not be able to enforce it against him, particularly if he's promising to pay out of his own pocket. G, folks, if you're promising someone to sell or buy goods valued at $500 or more in Florida, that contract needs to be in writing. You could buy a service of $10,000, doesn't need to be in writing. Goods, 500 or more, has to be in writing. S, are you agreeing to be a surety for something? Now, let us suppose that my daughter, Sonia back there, decides to get married and she wants to book Dubstred. And maybe she doesn't have enough money because it's going to be a $100,000 wedding. They say, we'll contract with you, but we need someone to go ahead and sign just to back you up. Kind of like a guarantee, a surety. That contract needs to be in writing if Dubstred is going to be able to enforce it. My legs. These are contracts that have to be in writing. But folks, that's not really why we're here. You're going to remember this. And that's why we're here. My son asks questions. My son knows a lot. One of the questions that he asks, he's a filmmaker, is, what makes something memorable? What's going to make your speech memorable? That's why we're here. And one of the things you want to do if you're going to make a speech memorable is you anchor it to a story. When you anchor it to a story, it's better if the story is your story. You don't borrow some really cool story from someone else, because if people come here, they want a little bit of you. They want a piece of your soul. That's how we connect. So it needs to be your story. And it needs to be something that moved you. That encounter at the Walmart, I mean, the best things in the world happen at Walmart. That encounter at the Walmart moved me. And the engagement 10 years ago obviously moved her. So finally, it doesn't hurt if you have a couple of memorable props. And if along the way you do at least one thing that is unexpected. If you do that, you can traipse in and out of a speech, a Toastmasters meeting, and notwithstanding the comments of the Right Reverend William Newhouse, you don't even have to cut up to persuade.